Serves up some T-ball questions to Petty Dan Trump. I am your Heavenly Father, and I beg you to stop the InHannity tonight on the live stream. Welcome, everybody. I have an opener. Get on into the chat rooms. If you're watching for the first time, you can chat or not chat. You can't click on that chat over there. It doesn't work. Whatever format you're watching on, there should be chat ability for you. If you want to be in the fastest chat room, go to youtube.com/KevinlyFather. Join the video there. You should be able to find it pretty easily. Look under live broadcasts. That's where we are. And the fastest chat is available there. If you can't figure it out, ask a teenager. Or a 6-year-old. Hey, Kim, welcome. If you'd like to support us, hey, Lizzie, how you doing? If you'd like to support us, go to KevinlyFather.com. We'll get to that later. We got a lot to cover tonight. President Dump was on Hannity doing a Wednesday night news dump and talking about ramps, blaming Biden for everything and Obama. Let's get right to it. Hey, how you doing, Stephanie? Here we go.
Donald Trump. Mr. President, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, John.
Let me pick up what I was just discussing with Lindsey Graham, and that is Ferguson happened under President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden. Same with Baltimore, Cambridge, all these other incidents. They didn't have any reforms. Criminal justice reform happened with you. Historically, black colleges funded more money for a longer period of time. That was you as well. And if I look at some of the other opportunity zones, that's also.
Hey, Doctor.
And you're always under attack. But then you came out with these reforms. Let's talk about police reforms you announced yesterday.
Well, we did, and if you look at the previous administration, and frankly, many administrations, they did nothing on this, and we did criminal justice reform.
Okay, we're going to stop right there. I went back and I actually looked at what Obama did for criminal justice reform. He couldn't do much because Mitch wouldn't let it happen, but he did set up a task force for police reformations, and I have the actual report right here. Final report of the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. It's from May of 2015 after Ferguson. It is 116 pages long, and it is not double spaced. These are all recommendations for police reports. So yeah, Obama did a whole bunch of stuff on reforming the police. And then, of course, as soon as Trump got into office, he reversed a whole bunch of it. Let's move on.
We did tremendous opportunity. If you look at the opportunities we've given everybody, but the opportunity zones have been incredible. It's been one of the great things in terms of investment in areas and in terms of unemployment. It's been incredible. Before the Chinese plague came to us, the African-American, if you look at the African-American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian unemployment, women, everything, we had the best unemployment numbers in the history of our country. We had almost 160 million.
We didn't keep track of black unemployment until 1972. And before the pandemic, black unemployment was still twice as high as unemployment for whites. That's a problem.
People working, nobody's been close. And now we're doing it again. You see the numbers coming back very strongly. But you're right, the previous administration did nothing.
I talked a lot. For 3 years, we did an investigation, and we've been proven right every step of the way on what Joe DeGeneres kind of shocked me the first time. He said, dirty cops, because I have a lot of family members that were in law enforcement, including my own parents in some form. And, you know,
in some form.
I always said the 99%. I have an FBI button on me I wear every night. I have a CIA button for the good people of intelligence. You talked about the good cops. You know, there's a report tonight in Atlanta that the department is experiencing a higher than usual number of call-outs for the upcoming shift tonight. You've heard of the term blue flu. I opened the show with, well, who are you going to call if we defund the police or eliminate the police? That seems to be getting momentum in the country. That scares me. I don't like to know your feelings on it.
Well, Joe was referring, when he said dirty cops, I believe, to James Comey, and he was right about that one, and McCabe and that group. So he was referring to them, but, you know, it's a different form.
Okay, I want to go back to what Hannity said about his parents just for a second here.
For 3 years, we did an investigation, and we've been proven
Almost 160 million people working. Nobody's been.
Joe DeGenevis kind of shocked me the first time he said dirty cops, because I have a lot of family members that were in law enforcement, including my own parents in some form. And,
yeah, they worked in the justice system.
I always said the 99%. I have an FTC call if we defund the police or eliminate the police. That seems to be getting momentum in the country. That scares me. I'd like to know your feelings on it.
Well, Joe was referring, when he said dirty cops, I believe, to James Comey, and he was right about that one, and McCabe and that group. So he was referring to them, but, you know, it's a different form. It's a different uniform. And, you know, you have bad and you have great. You have cops and police and law enforcement. They're great people, and that's a vast majority of them. And they do an incredible job, and they keep us all safe. And they love their country, and they don't want to make any mistakes. But they're under siege. There's no question about that. And we worked on some things very closely with law enforcement, and a lot of it you had on your show. I noticed the other night you had it on your show. And whether it's the cams, you know, the dash cam and the body cam, which is a camera, basically, very sophisticated camera.
For those of you who don't know, we're going to just replay that here.
Very closely with law enforcement, and a lot of it you had on your show. I noticed the other night you had it on your show. And whether it's the cams, you know, the dash cam and the body cam, which is a camera, basically, very sophisticated camera. And other things. We have a lot of that in the bill, and it passed, and it
my whole life.
It's going to pay. A lot of things are happening right now, but I signed an executive order, and a lot of that is included in what the Republicans put out today. And the Democrats, all they do is complain. You know, they complain, but they've done nothing. They do nothing. They want to defund, and they want to abolish. They want to abolish police departments, and that's what's going to be. You know, with Biden, if you look, if he ever got in, you'd be abolishing police. You could just watch, because he's not going to be running anything. People around him will, and they will be abolishing police. They'll be
Biden will have no control.
And they want to abolish. They want to abolish police departments, and that's what's going to be. You know, with Biden, if you look, if he ever got in, you'd be abolishing police. You could just watch, because he's not going to be running anything. People around him will, and they will be abolishing police. They'll be getting rid of your Second Amendment very quickly. You will not have a Second Amendment, and many other things you won't have that you'd like to have.
You know, we're watching what's
Colin Kaepernick. It's all connected. Do the math, people. Q.
unfolding in Seattle, Mr. President. The autonomous zone, Chaz, Chops, the Summer of Love, as the mayor refers to it, potluck spaghetti dinners. You have offered help to every governor that needs it, every mayor that needs it. They have outright rejected it in states like New York, cities like New York, states like Illinois, cities like Chicago, and that includes Seattle, where, you know, city blocks now have been taken over. And by the way, they built their own version of a wall, interestingly enough.
Yeah, look at the wall.
Cities like New York, states like Illinois, cities like
This
Chicago,
is what's happening in Seattle.
And that includes Seattle, where, you know.
Here's the thing. This is not the protesters. This is Seattle Department of Transportation putting in the barriers. Why? Because the protesters said, hey, if you guys want to put in barriers, that would be super great, because we don't want a car mowing through like they did in Charlottesville, like they did in Seattle just a couple of weeks ago. And the guy took out a gun and started shooting and hit somebody in the arm. Luckily, didn't kill anybody. Cops arrested him. Protesters were happy to cooperate. But this is the city of Seattle putting up the barrier, not the protesters.
City blocks now have been taken over. And by the way, they built their own version of a wall, interestingly enough, to keep people out. And you keep offering to help, and they keep rejecting that help. And it's really the governor.
This is breaking news right here,
guys. I didn't even know about this. And by the way, they built their own version of a wall, interestingly enough, to keep people out. And you keep offering to help.
The wall only keeps cars out. People can walk right in. I walk right in. But I didn't see this before. Free tie-dye. All right, you guys take care of yourselves. I know I have some white shirts around somewhere. Here, I'll just play it. You guys enjoy your night.
And they keep rejecting that help. And it's really the governor and the mayor's job but there might come a moment where you might not have an option. I assume we would know when that moment exists. Why do you think they keep rejecting your help? Because it seemed to work in Washington, D.C. and Minneapolis when they did accept it.
Because the governor of the state of Washington is weak and the mayor is weak. And what they're doing is setting a precedent that's never been.
I would love to see him take on Jay Inslee, who's, by the way, is a pretty good basketball player. He's tall, too. He's got some height on me, so he can play some ball. I would love him to see him in the ring. I would love to see him in the ring with Governor Inslee or Mayor Jenny Durkin, for that matter. She could take him, too. But they're weak.
Been set before in this country. And these people that are taking over this.
Again, this is Seattle Department of Transportation. Not sure what the bottom says there. But yeah, like the protesters barely have cars. But you know what? It's Capitol Hill. They don't need cars.
Incredible piece of real estate are obviously very good at real estate. Maybe better than I was because they paid nothing. They just took it over. And the police are somehow told not to be there. I'm sure they'd do a good job if they were told to do a good job. I assume they're properly trained. But we would go in there if they want us in, and we will take it back very quickly.
See where the police are?
It should never be.
He's talking about the police not being there.
The police are somehow told not to be there. I'm sure they'd do a good job if they were told to do a good job. I assume they're properly trained.
Literally right here. Police officer. Literally right there, as he says they were told not to be there.
And we will take it back very quickly. It should never be allowed to fester like it's festering right now.
Wait, that might not be a police officer. That might be private security. I could be wrong on that one, but let's move on.
It's disgraceful to our...
Anyway, I've been there. The police are literally on the other side of the barrier. And there was an ambulance parked not far from there as well that you could see from the zone. Just halfway down the block, ambulance ready to go, just like at any street fair. And there's 2 different medical tents in the zone, and it's only 3 blocks long.
Country, it's a disgrace.
By the way, the medical tents said for patient privacy, please don't, no video cameras, no taping. So I didn't tape anything at the medical centers, which is why I don't have any video of it. But anyway.
Let's talk a little bit about your reaction to the 2 big cases.
Hey, Aaron.
It seemed to be universal condemnation as it relates to George Floyd, and your thoughts on what were the charges that went down in Atlanta earlier today.
Well, the George Floyd case, nothing has to be said. I watched that. I couldn't really watch it for that long a period of time. It was over 8 minutes, and who could watch that?
He's already said that he watched the whole thing.
But it doesn't get any...
But you're right, a period of 8 minutes when you've got whatever Trump has got. I mean, 8 minutes is how long it takes somebody to walk down a ramp.
More obvious, or does it get any worse than that? And I think it's a different kind of a case.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the chat.
That man has some big problems. There's no question about it, the police officer, what he did. And I haven't met any, because I deal with law enforcement all the time, and I just left a big group of the top sheriffs and law enforcement people in the country, and nobody was sticking up for what he did. The event that took place yesterday I thought it was a terrible situation, but you can't resist a police officer. And, you know, if you have a disagreement, you have to take it up after the fact. It was a very sad, very, very sad thing. And look, you take a look, it was out of control. The whole situation was out of control. I heard today and just got a report that the police officer's lawyer said that he heard a sound like a gunshot, and he saw a flash in front of him. So that's an interesting, I don't know that I would have necessarily believed that.
Something
but
wacky's happening,
I will tell
guys,
you
that's
a very interesting thing, and maybe that's so. They're going to have to find out. It's up to justice right now.
Did anybody hear from the lawyer? Did anybody hear the cop's lawyer, whether or not he heard a sound like a gun and saw a flash?
Now it's going to be up to justice. I hope he gets a fair...
Did tasers make a flash? I don't even know. I've never been tased.
Jake, because police have not been treated fairly in our country. They have not been treated fairly. But, again, you can't resist a police officer like that. And they ended up in a very terrible disagreement. And look at the way it ended. Very bad, very bad.
You know, Terry McAuliffe, you talked about in your interview with my colleague and friend Harris Faulkner, you talked about Joe Biden almost having compassion on him a lot of ways. Terry McAuliffe actually
Guys,
said,
I'm going to restart the chat room.
I'm fine with him staying in the basement. He only sees 2 people a day as 2 body men. I'm fine with that, which I think is a very unusual and unique way to run for president of the United States. To me, I think there are legitimate questions as it relates to mental alertness and, well, let's say stamina and strength and acumen. I would argue
this is the guy that couldn't go down
in the last
ramp.
3+ years, your job is probably the hardest job in the world that I can see. I believe that to be true. Should that be an issue in the campaign?
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting issue, and he's been in the basement for a long time. I think he's really been run beautifully. He's not running his campaign. People are running his campaign. I see quotes all the time that he said this, he said that about me. And they're long, beautiful, flowing sentences. I said, Joe didn't make that statement. And Joe doesn't even know the statement was made. But they are leaving him there, and at some point he's going to have to come out.
Here's Biden out of the basement. This is Biden just a few days ago. He has been to churches. He's been to protests. This is him talking with a gentleman, I'm assuming his daughter. Could be a son. I can't really tell from this angle, but kneeling down, wearing, oh, by the way, wearing a mask. So, yeah, Biden's out there. He just gave a speech today, which, by the way, was covered by all 3 networks, including Fox News, while Trump was speaking.
For air. And I think, look, we've done a great job. We've done a great job. If you look back a few months to an economy that was the greatest of all time, everything we had was at records. Every no matter whether it's unemployment, whether it's the stock market, and now
Thanks,
you look
Raymond.
at what we're doing. I'm doing it all over again. We had to turn it off. We would have lost millions of people. We did. We turned it off, and now we've started up again, and we're going to have an amazing year next year. We're going to have a great third quarter. We just
Lizzie's on Twitch. This means we're getting some bad language in here now, kids.
had the best jobs numbers, the biggest job gain in history, and we just had the biggest
Joanna.
Retail sales numbers in history for the last month. So we're starting up, and it's going to be very, very strong. We're very close to a vaccine, even with it, without it. But I will tell you, we're very close to a vaccine, and we're very close to therapeutics, really good therapeutics. And but even with
there's no evidence that we hope we have a vaccine by November. That's what Dr. Fauci says. We may have one of the many candidates ready in November, but there's no evidence that we are very close to one.
Without that, I don't even like to talk about that because it's fading away. It's going to fade away, but having a vaccine would be really nice, and that's going to happen.
So all these protests have been going on for weeks, and talk about social distancing kind of went away almost completely from what I can tell. There were many people I saw that were not wearing masks, and even some of the politicians now that are critical of you having a rally
let's get rid of the picture, guys. Sorry.
In Oklahoma on Saturday.
Now
all of a sudden they're saying that it may not be safe. I understand temperatures are going to be taken. I understand people that go are signing away.
By the way, Times or the Post was reporting today that Trump wants the people who told the press that he was in the bunker, that he visited the bunker, inspected the bunker 2.5 times. He wants them prosecuted because he says that's top secret information.
I understand that masks will be worn by people and even distributed. I think I read somewhere. Maybe you should change the name of the rally and call it a protest, and maybe they will say it's okay then.
Yeah. Well, that's true. The protests, I mean, the protesters and anarchists and terrorists and looters and all of the people that were marching on various locations over the last couple of weeks, that's died down. They've lost some energy. That's good. But because many of them don't even know what they're protesting, frankly.
It's good that the protesters have lost energy because many of them don't even know what they're protesting. They're just like, they're walking along and they just have some random signs that say F Trump, and then they found a bunch of people that also hate Trump. So it worked out. But
you look at that, and they were right on top of each other. large numbers, pretty large numbers, and they were right on top of each other. And nobody complained. When you look at fake CNN, it's total fake. It's a fake news operation. And it's really...
Man, if only there were articles or interviews or... Here's CNN. Get rid of the top part there. Protests could spur coronavirus outbreaks, and protesters should get tested, the CDC chief says. That's CNN. And, of course, there's actual video, because this is what I saw 4 or 5 times on CNN the other day. This is from June 5th. So, there's fake news CNN pointing out that the protesters could end up spreading the coronavirus. And I saw the same thing on MSDNC.
Like an extension of the Democrat Party, and then you look at MSDNC, which is DNC, Democrat National Committee.
Democratic.
And you look at it, and you see the way they talk. They never mention that. They don't talk about it. This is all you hear about.
There it is. But
Oklahoma,
there it is.
What we're doing, we'll be in Tulsa. You have a great mayor, and you have a great governor. Governor Stitt, I spoke to him yesterday. They're so excited about it that you have no idea. And we have had so many sign-ups. You know, there are lines of people now, and we won't be there for 3 days.
Are
they
there?
have lines
Is anybody
of
in
people
Tulsa?
right
Can you
now
find me the lines?
trying to get into the arena. I mean, they'll be there. They'll be early.
How many people
They'll be in one of
signed
those
up?
early front rows.
How many people signed up? Do you know?
Over 1 million people requested tickets. Well, there's just a hunger for...
1 million people in a city of 400,000. That means there's about 25% of that. So our kids, that leaves 300,000. 25% of those are seniors, and in the vulnerable population, they should not be going no matter what. And Trump has said that seniors should stay inside because they're a vulnerable population. That leaves 200,000 people. And yet somehow 1 million people have requested tickets. Even if every single one of those was a Trump fan who wanted to spend an entire day waiting in line, 1 million people have requested tickets. Well, at least Oklahoma is over the whole virus thing. Oh, wait. Yeah, God, another record day today. Fantastic. Kevin Lee Daughter wants to say something. What's up?
Well, you know, a bunch of people wanted to pull a prank on Trump and all request tickets and then nobody show up. Right?
Yeah. Is that what's happened?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Kevin Lee Daughters reported to me from the kids that a whole bunch of people have requested tickets for this and have no intention of showing up. So that's what's going on. And I went in and looked myself. All it takes is a captcha just saying, "I'm not a robot," if you want to go. So yeah, they've had over 1 million requests, and they do not have 1 million people trying to go.
The rallies, and I enjoy doing them, but they enjoy them more importantly than me. They enjoy them. It gives energy to everybody, and we have tremendous enthusiasm. If you look at the polls, we're way ahead of Sleepy Joe in terms of enthusiasm. We have enthusiasm like they've never seen before.
Can anybody find me an enthusiasm
poll? Joe has
poll?
the lowest, I hear, enthusiasm on record. Now, they have a party, and the party believes in a lot of bad things. Open borders, sanctuary cities. Open borders, think of it. Supposing like at Tijuana, we built...
Lost in the news with the LGBTQ case that the Supreme Court heard on or announced on Monday is the fact that they turned down Trump's request to file against sanctuary cities. So sanctuary cities are here to stay.
We're up to 212 miles of wall, and this is serious wall, and I'm going to be at the wall very soon. We're going to celebrate over 200, but it's 212 miles now. Nobody is getting through, and very, very few people are coming through.
A lot of people are getting through, but very few people are coming through because we have 27% of the coronavirus deaths on the planet.
On our border, we have a tremendous border. But think of it, in Tijuana, Tijuana, Mexico, it's one of the most infected places on earth. And we have a wall between Tijuana and San Diego. You know, it's like a beautiful,
we're one of the most infected
very
places.
powerful wall. And California is very happy that we have it because they wouldn't have any numbers. They would have numbers like you wouldn't believe right now if we didn't have that. So we've done a great job. We were very early to the call, as you know, because you're one person that reports it. But when we heard about it, I made the decision not to let people from China come in.
Hey, producer
we
Debbie.
love people from China, but they were having a tremendous problem. And then at the end of January, I said, you can't come in. You can't come in. And we saved tens of thousands, and everybody, even our critics, give me credit for that. But we saved tens.
No, we do not.
Tens of thousands of lives, and then I banned Europe from coming in because Europe, many of the people that couldn't come here went.
He did not ban Europe. You remember that speech, which was absolutely abysmal in terms of a speech? He said that Europe, including cargo, was banned, but not all countries in Europe. For example, Great Britain, that was the third most cases and had decided just to let it sweep through the country and see what happened at the time. And then Boris Johnson got it. England was not, or the Great Britain was not included in the ban to begin with, for no good reason. But cargo was. And then, of course, after the speech, they had to come out and say, "No, he didn't mean cargo. That's not what he." Yes,
Italy,
what he
and
said.
They went to Spain and France, and we had to ban Europe, and we did that fairly shortly thereafter. So we've been very early, and our testing has been phenomenal. And we came up with ventilators that we're the kings of ventilators. We're making thousands of ventilators a week. All our people have one. Not one person that needed a ventilator has not gotten one. Every single person that needed a ventilator got one, and it's been incredible. Now we're helping other countries because it's hard to make. They're expensive and they're big and they're very highly complex. And we're helping other countries.
Big.
Many other countries. We're sending them ventilators.
Let me ask you, it was 10 days after the first identified case of corona in the U.S. when you had the travel ban. We hadn't had a quarantine in 50-plus years, in my understanding. Then the subsequent travel bans, you were called racist, xenophobic, hysterical, fear-mongerer. That was 10 days after the first case here.
It was 13 days.
I'm told, according to my sources, that everybody that was advising you didn't think it was necessary. The models were wrong. Predictions were wrong all the way around. I don't know why they've been.
The models and predictions said that we would get a lot of coronavirus here, and that if we didn't lock everybody down, we would have upwards of 100,000 deaths.
So wrong. China lied. What made you at that moment make that one decision? Because that seems critical to me.
Well, I was seeing information that China, Wuhan in particular, was very heavily infected. And I just said, look, why are we doing this? And let's see. And nobody knew anything about it at that time. We didn't know it affected the elderly much more so than children. That's why we have to open our schools in the fall. The children, the numbers are very, very small.
Why did you make the decision? What was the data you used to make the decision? And within 30 seconds, he's talking about opening the schools.
Almost non-existent. And it's an incredible thing. Their immune system is very strong. And so we have to get the schools open, and I'm sure they'll be open. I think most of them, if people are doing the right thing, they're going to be opening up schools. You have to have it. Too much of a strain in many ways and unfair to the children. But I just felt it was a heavily infected area, and how are we letting people into our country? Nobody knew that it was going to be that contagious. It's a highly contagious. There's been nothing like this since
he's about to say 1917, I bet. All the scientists knew that if you have a chance, look up Red Dawn. It's an email chain between, let's say, officials in the government and officials formerly in the government, but these people keep in contact with each other. But there's an email chain called Red Dawn where they're sitting there typing to each other. We've been through this. We've done the scenario reenactments of this so that we're prepared, and we're doing everything that we shouldn't do.
17, over 100 years ago, we're probably...
Yeah, there it is.
But I just felt it was a heavily infected area, and how are we letting people into our country? Nobody knew that it was going to be that contagious. It's a highly contagious. There's been nothing like this since 1917, over 100 years ago, where probably anywhere from 50 to 100 million people died. Probably ended World War I because all the soldiers, they were so sick. And
World War I ended in 1918 or 1917 in Trump's world because the Bolsheviks took over Russia. They negotiated peace with Germany, and then Germany turned their attention to the Western Front. The Americans started going in heavy on the Western Front. France actually started stopping the Germans on the Western Front, and Germany just couldn't eventually take it and surrendered. Yes, there was flu, but it did not stop World War I. That is not what the history books say. Is anybody old enough to have been there? Anyone?
Probably. That was the one thing. It ended World War I, very likely.
No.
But nobody had any idea it was going to be this kind of...
Okay, guys, somebody out there look up and see if the Spanish flu ended World War I. Remember, World War I ended in 1918, and the flu started in 1918, and the big wave of the flu wasn't until fall of 1918.
Contagious. It has been really rough, but we've learned a lot, and we're doing
David, check
really
on that
great
for me, would you?
in the laboratories, and we're going to have a vaccine very soon.
Sorry.
John Bolton, who worked for you, has a book, and in that book, he's claiming that
it's Wonder Woman. That's true.
You
Thank you,
asked
Steve.
China for help with your re-election. Your trade representative, by the way, the U.S. trade representative is now just came out with a statement claiming that that is false and denies it.
Thank you. David with Snopes, he's the fact checker on the planet, has just confirmed World War I ended when Germany surrendered to the Spanish. So, thank you.
Just recently released documents tonight and affidavits that says the NSC has determined that the information in the manuscript is classified as confidential, secret, top secret levels. Accordingly, the publication release of the room where it happened would cause irreparable harm because the disclosure of instances of classified information in the manuscript reasonably could be expected to cause serious damage or exceptionally grave damage to the national security of the United States. I went back, I think it was a month before he was fired,
several people already have copies of the book, including Stephen Colbert. No one has pointed out that there are things that are causing grave damage to the security of the United States.
I have a whole series of articles. I don't have time for them all. In an interview with my former fellow colleague, Greta Van Susteren, Bolton said, I think one thing you could be sure of, this is just before he got fired, is President Trump's not going to make the mistakes of prior administrations here that succumb to the idea that if you give them economic benefits, you automatically count on them for following through with their commitments. He said on your views on Russia, the president gets criticized for being soft on Russia. I'm still waiting to see evidence of that. He's authorized us to take very strong action against election meddling by anybody, strong action against intrusions into our information technology systems by countries like Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. What is your reaction to this charge and this claim of the president, and what now the government is saying basically it's compromising national security is the way I interpret that?
Well, first of all, nobody has been tougher on Russia or China than I have. Nobody even close. China's paying us billions of dollars a year. They never gave us 10 cents, and Biden's son walked away with $1.5 billion to manage, making hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on it. So nobody has been tough on China, and
all of that is complete nonsense. And, of course, China's not paying us anything.
Nobody has.
By the way, Trump signed the deal to sign the proclamation saying that the meatpacking plants have to stay open. And the meatpacking plants sold a bunch of meat to China. So I don't know the exact figures on that, but this is what I read the other day.
Been tough on Russia like I have. And that's in the record books, and it's not even close.
It's not.
The last administration did nothing on either. And then in terms of Bolton, he broke the law. He was a washed-up guy. I gave him a chance. He couldn't get Senate confirmed, so I gave him a non-Senate confirmed position where I could just put him there.
He was a washed-up guy, so I gave him a chance because I will hire the best people. Washed-up guy.
There, see how he
made him his national security advisor. You know, in the likes of General Flynn.
Worked. And I wasn't very enamored. He went into the Middle East. He was one of the big guns for let's go into Iraq. And that didn't work out too well. And I was against that a long time ago before I was ever even thinking about doing what I'm doing now.
And still hired him.
But he was one of the people who wanted to go into Iraq. When I asked him about it, I said, you know, about a month in, when he was about a month in, I said, what do you think? Do you think you made a mistake there? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I said, explain that one. So
A month in, he asked him, rather than in the job interview process.
The terrible thing that he did, but he broke the law. Very simple. I mean, as much as it's going to be broken, this is highly classified. That's the highest stage. It's
highly classified is not the highest stage, and Trump just said he broke the law as much as it's going to be broken. Well, in terms of people that should know how much you can break the law, I mean, I can't argue.
Classified information, and he did not have approval. That's come out now very loud and very strong. And I appreciate Ambassador Lighthizer in front of a committee today on an unrelated topic. They asked him that question. One of our friends in the Democrat Party was very nice to ask him the question. And then he said, absolutely not. Trump was tough on China, but nobody's been tough like me. Nobody's been tough like me on China. We're taking in right now billions and billions of dollars from China.
So one of the revelations in Bolton's book is that Trump asked President Xi to buy more agriculture so that the farmers would vote for him. That's in the book, and that's why Trump is upset.
Gave a lot of it to the farmers because the farmers were targeted by China. Nobody's ever done that.
Wasn't it $500 billion for just 2 years alone, if I remember the first part of the deal? Not insignificant, and all the other trade deals. Let me go. One thing that kind of was interesting to me, everybody knows your opinion on the...
Anyway, so Trump signed phase one of the deal, saying that China was the trade deal, saying that China was going to buy agricultural products from the United States. And then COVID hit. Well, China stopped buying agricultural products. So what did Trump do? He forced the people working in the meatpacking plants to go back to work, even though they were hotspots for the coronavirus. And it turns out that that's because he wanted China to buy the meat from the meatpacking plants in order to gain the revenue to make it look like phase one of the deal was a good thing. And they still haven't made good, by the way.
The anthem and kneeling, and you've been very outspoken about it, but comments you made on Colin Kaepernick about if he deserves to play in the NFL, if he has the playing ability, if he, and you're right, he did start off, by the way, as a great quarterback. I mean, actually amazing couple of years. You say didn't end up in terms of being as good a player in some of his later years, but you said he was terrific his first 2 years. And then he wasn't playing up to snuff. You said the answer is absolutely. I would, love to see him get another shot. And obviously he has to play well.
I would love to see Kaepernick get another shot, but A, running quarterbacks don't last in the NFL, and B, he can't throw to his left. Full disclosure, I'm a Seahawk fan.
Well, if he can't, no, but you would like to see him get another shot. I found that interesting.
Yeah, if he has the ability. Look, he can only get it if he has the ability. They're not going to lose games because of, wanting to be politically correct or whatever term you might, I don't know if that's politically correct or the opposite.
I know, they talk about Cap like he's 48 years old.
But if he has...
I seriously, though, I do hope he gets another shot at the league. And he kind of had one last year, but then left to go work out at a high school field because he didn't think he'd get a fair shot or something. Anyway,
the ability. Look, he was a great rookie, and his second...
I should say, but what I do support wholeheartedly is him sitting or kneeling or whatever he wants to do to bring light to police violence.
Second year was great. And then after that, he started going downhill rather rapidly, and then he was out of football, and then he started suing everybody. And I think he made a lot more money doing that than he did with football. But it was if he has the ability, somebody would take him. I think. Look, I know a lot of these owners. If they had somebody that was going to win games, they'll sign him. It doesn't matter who they are; they'll sign him. And I don't like also relatively. Another subject, but I figure it's your next question. When the national anthem plays and our flag, the great American flag, is raised, you should not be kneeling. You should be standing.
It's funny that Fox has all these shots of Kaepernick kneeling down just lined up, ready to go, one after the other, after the other.
Ideally,
they can't find a shot of a single Antifa member in Seattle, but they got all these shots of Cap. Roll the B-roll.
With your hand on your heart, or saluting, but they should not be kneeling. They can protest enough, and I saw the NFL get very weak. I saw Drew Brees, who's a warrior, great.
That's a callback, Steve. Steve's going into the deep cuts. I tried to get Kaepernick to play for my Generals, but...
Quarterback, a fan of his. I'm a fan of his. And I saw him make this beautiful statement, and then the next day he retracted the statement. He talked about his father and his grandfather fighting in the war for our country, our flag, and then the next day he retracted it. I just don't get that, but you have to...
I get it. Drew Brees had to retract the statement after hearing from his fellow linemen because at some point he's going to end up with a knee on his neck.
To stand when the flag goes up, and I think they'll lose a lot of fans and a lot of support in the NFL. It already happened before. I thought they learned their lesson, but I think it's going to happen again. And I was surprised at Roger Goodell that he would have done what he did and made this statement that he made. Nobody was even asking for it.
Let me go back to COVID and the economic recovery. You did mention, the
NFL's ratings have grown each of the last 2 years.
Well, just like the coronavirus models, predictions, they were so off base. I mean, shockingly so. But with all of that said, and nobody predicted, they were predicting, I think it was a 9 million job loss in May, and you ended up gaining 2.5 million. Then you had a record retail sales at 18%. We see in a Gallup poll that you're doing better even now on this issue than Obama ever did at any point of his presidency. How worried are you about, well, we know it's when, not if, in terms of hotspots emerging, and we've now been dealing with them. How confident are you that we're able to get on them quick enough so that we don't ever find ourselves in a position again to have to shut down, a big portion of the economy in the country? And that would be, again, the cure can't be worse than...
Wait, did I get producer Debbie? Let me know what I got wrong that Trump said. I'm nothing but fair here.
Than the disease, right?
Well, we'll get on it. That's right. My original statement, the cure can't be worse than the disease itself. And we'll get on it quickly. We're working with 50 governors, some of whom are really outstanding, like in Oklahoma, as an example. We're working with the governors, and we're working with local representatives and mayors, and we're supplying them what they need, including the ventilators. Now we don't need any, no matter what. We have that taken care of. We're in great shape to put out I used to call them the embers or the flames. They flare up in certain areas a little bit, but I think we'll put them out very quickly, and we won't be closing the country again. We won't be.
With what, hydroxychloroquine? We don't have a therapy yet. We have some ideas, a couple of breakthroughs in the last couple of days, but At Random sent me an article about that, but that's another story.
Have to do that, but
it's a blood clotting disease, which is what I said right at the beginning, but nobody listens to me anyway. Actually, the doctors knew that too, but I was picking up on that. And At Random also picked up on that to give her credit.
The beginning, I tell you, if we didn't do what we did, we made all the right moves, Sean, we would have lost anywhere from probably 1.5.
All the right moves would have been testing, containing, and paying the people to stay home or in a containment center. A hotel room, for instance, which is what they do in Hong Kong and Taiwan. By the way, New Zealand, which was virus clear, just got 2 new cases. So the virus is around a lot longer than people think it is.
Minimum, they have to understand that's 10 times what we're talking about now, 10 times. Think of that. With all the loss, multiplied times 10, that's at a minimum. And you could have gone up to 3.5 or more million people, and that's many times more. So we closed it. We also learned a lot about it, who it attacks. It attacks different people, but it doesn't attack the young.
It's like a football coach saying, yes, they scored 65 points on us, but if we didn't show up today, they could have scored 416.
As we said, but it does attack senior citizens, older people, especially if they have a problem with their heart, if they have diabetes. They get attacked violently by this horrible disease. China should have kept it where it was. They could have easily stopped it. They either lost control, they either suffered great incompetence, something happened, or I don't know. The worst thing would be is if they knew this was going to happen, because other than just tonight, I heard, and yesterday it hit Beijing to a certain extent, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, they're locking it down.
But other than that, they've kept it inside, and except when it came to,
he can't say anything.
He knew this was going
normally
to happen, because other than just tonight, I heard, and yesterday it hit Beijing to a certain extent, and we'll see what happens there. Just hit Beijing, but other than that, they've kept it inside, and except when it came to letting it hit the rest of the world.
Only 139 days till Election Day. Reince Priebus was on the show the other night saying maybe you and Joe Biden, if he gets out of his basement, can have more than the usual 3 debates that a president would have. Would you like that? And or do you like it the way it is? Do you have any fear that Joe's going to try and duck him? We only have 30 seconds, sir.
Yeah, I would frankly like it. I can tell you who'd like it. His television would like it. Your companies would like it.
I would like it.
I would say that would be fine if they'd like to do it. I'm open to whatever they want to do, Sean. Get the word out.
Thank you, sir, for being with us. We appreciate it. Really troubling times, but we'll get through it. We're Americans. Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. That is the end of the Hannity interview with Donald J. Trump. By the way, did you know the J just stands for John, not Jonathan? I know there's some people that do that, but for, Donald, Jonathan, Trump, to me, I would go with Jonathan. Maybe the family couldn't afford. Actually, they probably could afford Jonathan. They went John just to save that extra money. So, hey, guys, this has been great. If you missed it, we had an opener today. We've got a closing already. We're going to play the credits in just a few minutes. If you'd like to support us here on the live stream, we would love to have you support us on the live stream. I think I said live stream that time. In order to support us, all you have to do is go to kevinleefather.com, and you can become a patron there, and then you can get your name in the scroll and in the credits that I'm just about to play. We have a couple of new patrons. We have new producers, J.C. Bryant, who upgraded to producer. We have producer Rich Mack, who upgraded to producer. And new patron of the Farts, Claudia. So I didn't see Claudia in here today, but we appreciate it. And she dedicated her she dedicated her membership to Ashton, who was one of the trolls in the chat room a couple of days ago, if you guys remember that. So it was great to see Claudia come on board. Thank you, Claudia. If anybody sees Claudia, just call her Ashton. She'll get it. But I don't think she's in here today. Everybody who's watching and isn't chatting, or everybody who's watching on delay so that you can't chat, appreciate it as well. I see all those stats, and I appreciate it, and it gives me faith in the human spirit. 139 days until Ejection Day, people. Move to a swing state or talk to somebody who does and convince them to vote the right way. We will be back tomorrow doing something. I have an audition for a video game that I have to shoot, and it's actually pretty extensive, so good stuff. So is Claudia in here? I don't even know if Claudia's in here. And the good Dr. Lisa Howard says everyone stay safe and healthy. That's good advice. Guys, if you missed the opener, go back and watch it because it's pretty awesome. It only took me, 6 weeks to make. Here are your closing credits. Get ready for them because I went back to the old song at the request of At Random. So she likes that it sounds epic. And it's actually called Epic when you download it. So enjoy yourself, kids. Be safe wherever you are. And be good to each other.